Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope that you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I actually had 19 people over. My family came over. We gathered for the first time in forever. And I cooked a turkey, and it actually was edible. It was like juicy and fully cooked. It all worked. So I was impressed with myself because I haven't done that before. So turkey for 19, it's no small feat, but it all worked out and we had all the fixins. I think the winner of all the side dishes had to have been cornbread, and I have to be careful here because I called it cornbread stuffing and was quickly told that was incorrect. It's cornbread dressing because it wasn't in the bird, it was on the side of the bird, so it's dressing, it's not stuffing. Anyway, it was very good. My mother-in-law brought it. It's always a favorite. I need to work on how to cook it because I'm pretty sure that my husband Wade would eat it every day if I figured out how to cook it. So I've actually told him to figure out how to cook it. I thought that would be a good like mother-son activity. It's like, honey, you should go over there with your mama and make some cornbread dressing with your mama. So we'll see. Hopefully that'll work out. But it was all good. We had 2 big tables set up and had everybody together and just had a wonderful evening. It was really nice. So hopefully you also had a wonderful Thanksgiving as well. And I see people are kind of gathering, coming in. And if you just put over in the chat what city that you are watching from, and then I always like to ask a little question to see kind of what your thoughts are. So here's my question. When you do fusible applique, do you use a blanket stitch? Do you use around the piecing, or do you use a zigzag stitch, or do you just leave it be and you don't go around the edges? So put there in the chat what you do, or maybe there's another stitch that you like to use. So a blanket stitch, also called most people call it a blanket stitch. A blanket stitch, a zigzag, like a tight zigzag is another one that's popular, or do you just leave it be and don't worry about it? So that would be raw edge applique. So put it over there in the chat. I'm interested to know your thoughts. I have been so busy that I haven't sewn in the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if you are like me, but when I don't sew, it's like I don't feel connected to myself. So this afternoon, I'm planning on sewing a little bit to feel a little more connected to myself. I've just been cooking turkeys. That's all I've been doing. So I'm so glad that you joined us. Does anybody have any opinions or tell us where they're from in the chat there, Olivia or Brad?
We've got hello from Ohio.
Oklahoma, awesome.
Washington State.
Washington State.
Southern California.
Southern California. It's early for Washington State and Southern California.
Elizabethtown.
And E-Town, that's just right up the road, about 45 minutes away. Any opinions about how to go around?
Cindy uses a blanket stitch.
Cindy use a blanket stitch?
We have lots of blanket stitches.
Blanket stitch.
Also the satin stitch.
Satin stitch, that is popular. It takes a lot more time, but that is popular. I really love, so I have a Fancy Pants embroidery machine. It's a Pfaff Creative Icon. And I've been playing around with using it to do the applique. And of course, if you're a Kimberbell fan, you already know all about this, but it'll like tell you where to put the piece of fabric down, and then it'll stop and let you cut it out, and then it'll stop and it'll let you put the satin stitch around it. So Kimberbell has some really wonderful patterns for machine applique using an embroidery machine especially. Yeah, I think my machine is smarter than I am because it can do all the things. I'm still trying to figure out a lot of it because it's just there's so many features on it, so it's kind of fun. Any other opinions? A feather stitch. Oh, that would be interesting. I would think that the feather stitch would get a little challenging at a super sharp point, just like a blanket stitch, really. Because you've got that angle, but that would be beautiful too. Yeah, you know, I always laugh. Sarah says that she likes to play with her feet on the, when we chat about the Love of Quilting show. I'm like, play with your feet. But what she's talking about is she likes to play with the different feet on her sewing machine because she plays with all those different stitches. And many of those different decorative stitches take different feet. So the first time she said she liked to play with her feet, I was like, what are we talking about? But she likes to put different feet on the machine and play with the different stitches. So I encourage you to play, really. That's the best way to kind of get to know what you like on your machines, whether it be your sit-down domestic or an embroidery machine or a long arm machine. So play. So I wanted to encourage you to sign up for our Quilted Joy newsletter. We have a lot of great things that we put in that newsletter, including downloadable worksheets that go along with a lot of the stuff that we talk about here in the clubhouse. And it has, you can print those on your home printer, and it has diagrams and step-by-step information of how to recreate a lot of the designs that we talk about in the clubhouse, including like blank grids that you can use, because we've been doing the Year of the Grid. So blank grids that you can play on too. And when you get that newsletter, you get all of the past, at least for 2021, you'll get all of the past grids for 2021. So once we cross over into 2022 in January, things may change. So make sure you sign up for the newsletter, and the next Clubhouse newsletter, oriented newsletter that we send out, you'll have a link to all of those past worksheets that you can print out and keep in a booklet there in your sewing room to play and enjoy and have some fun. So sign up for the newsletter. And then I did want to tell you today, we announced a limited edition Glide thread pack, and it is our Frost Fairy pack. And don't you love the colors in there? So the Frost Fairy has come to visit, and she has picked out 3 different beautiful icy blues. And there's Dodger, which took me a second to go, Dodger. Okay, so it's the baseball team. They're blue, yeah, Dodger. And then a steel blue, so icy blue. And then another one is Arctic. And all 3 of those I think you're going to love. And we do have that limited thread pack available in both the king cones, so the 5,000 meter cones, as well as the mini cones, the 1,000 meter cones. And if you are an embroiderer, a machine embroiderer, you will really love those 1,000 meter glide cones on your embroidery machine. They work great. It'll play really well. So those 3 colors I think you'll really enjoy. And then if you are looking for some holiday inspiration, we do have some free motion quilting worksheets that you can download. And you can sign up there at that link that's on your screen. And when you sign up, you will get an email that has our a daily downloadable pattern that you will get. And it has a worksheet. You can print that out. And we've got all kinds of fun stuff there. How many days does that go on, Kelsey? A 10-day event. So you'll get an email every day for 10 days with a little holiday inspiration for your free motion quilting. So do sign up. It's been super fun to see what folks have been playing with. They post pictures of what they've been playing with from our worksheets on their quilts. And it's always fun to see people putting it into action. And then I do encourage you, on December the 15th, we will have an Ask Me Anything chat. We'll have that in both the Clubhouse on Facebook, so the Quilted Joy Clubhouse on Facebook, as well as on YouTube, because we have had some folks ask us to put it on YouTube as well. So in the Quilted Joy channel on YouTube, as well as the Quilted Joy Clubhouse. On December the 15th at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And we'll just chat. You know, if you've got questions about quilting, you've got questions about domestic quilting, long arm quilting, about the Love of Quilting show, about, you know, how to cook a turkey, I'm all about it now. So whatever questions that you have, we'll just chat. And I do have a special things to share with you on that December the 15th, so join me. And if you're interested in some of the past ones that we've had, they're all on our Facebook group on Quilted Joy Clubhouse. And then the very last one we did last month is on YouTube. So you can go back and watch some of the older ones too. We just chat about everything and anything and share some photos from my little world. And it's kind of fun to get together. Okay, so we have been talking in 2021 all about the Year of the Grid and all about how to use grids for all kinds of quilting. So a lot of times free motion quilting can be a little intimidating because you have all of this negative space and you go, I guess I'm gonna fill it up. Like, one of the most common questions that I get is, how do I travel across a quilt, free motion quilting, and not get myself like locked into a space, like block myself into a corner? Or how do I get the flow across the quilt so I'm not banging into a bar if I'm on a long arm machine, or I'm not quilting myself into a corner if I'm on a domestic sewing machine? So grids are one of the ways that you can take a wide open space and give yourself some boundaries and some areas to stay within. And it makes free motion quilting especially so much easier. And there's so many designs. And so we have talked about grid designs this entire year. And frankly, we've barely even touched the surface. Like we've been sticking with mainly square grids, and we've done a few diagonals, but we haven't even broached circular grids. We haven't done that much diamond grids. Like there are so many hexagon grids, equilateral triangle grids. There are so many grids out there. So I encourage you to kind of dive into a lot of the grids that we've talked about this year. Get those worksheets off of our newsletter and pick your next quilt and put a grid on it. Don't think that it has to be all over edge to edge using a grid. Grids work great in borders. They work great in sashings. They work great as background fillers. There are so many places that you can use a grid. So play and then put a picture on the Quilted Joy Clubhouse because I would love to see what you're working on. I'm super nosy, so I always like to see what you're up to. So today we're going to talk about grids for floral quilts. Let me grab some water. So grids that you could use for floral quilts. And I've got just a square grid up here on the computer. And so let's do a flower grid first here on the computer. And the thing about the flower grid is you're going to want to do it in groups of 4. So if you have, say, a 4-inch border, you could do, this could be a great 4-inch border because here's a group of 4. Yeah, here's a group of 4. Yeah, here's a group of 4. Here's a group of 4. Okay, so let's look at how we would do a grid design in a border with a floral motif. So I'm going to just travel down the equator, and then I'm going to put kind of a flattened out heart or a lettuce leaf shape in here. So a heart that the cleft isn't super pronounced. And then I'm going to put little, I think those are called stamens in the middle. Veins? How about veins? Then I'm going to travel down the equator and then I'm going to do it again. So a flattened heart, a flattened heart. You could think of it as a molar on a tooth. Yeah. Whatever helps your brain get that shape. Down the equator. And I'm not really super worried when I'm going down the equator about making a straight line. So I'm going to do it again, and this time I'm going to deliberately choose not to do a straight line. So I'm just going to do a little loop and then head over. So don't let that straight line travel get you bunched up. And so I would mark this, right? I would not stitch the grid. I would mark this and just use the grid as my boundaries. And so you could stack that, right? So that's a great border, just right there as it is. But you could also stack it. So I'll just do a couple here. And so when you get the newsletter and you print out this grid, just a plain grid, then, you know, while you're in front of the TV, watching The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and all those Hallmark Channel movies, I'm going to put a loop. You can play with this flower grid. All right, let's do one more just for fun. We put the Christmas tree up, and this morning found little pieces of it all over the house from the cat who chewed it up. So some of those remind me of, you could put anything on there. I just put kind of flattened leaves, but you could also do something that's a little more Christmassy. So let's stitch that out, and then I have one more to show you. So I'm just going to do one little row here. Actually, I'm going to do it over here, Kelsey, if that's okay. I'm going to do it right here. Can you see that all right? Okay. So I'm going to drop my needle, and I'm just going to go straight down that line, and I'm going to do a little flattened lettuce leaf, heart shape, and then put my veins in, and then I'm going to do a little loop and head over here. There we go. And so I'm using a 2-inch grid here. It just depends on how much space you have to fill. I don't know that I would go above a 2-inch, but you could do a 1-inch. It's just you're going to be there for a little while. All right, so we just did 2. Let me cut my threads, Kelsey, and then I'll move the camera. All right, so there's almost a clover. It kind of depends on the shape of that leaf. Here's what's cool. I want you to look at it with a really critical eye, and I want you to notice how not one of these leaves is exactly like the other. Not one of these flattened heart lettuce leaf molar shapes is exactly like the other. And that is fabulous because there's so much less pressure. But one of the reasons the eye is all about it is because, you know, God made leaves in all kinds of shapes and sizes. And so there's not a lot of symmetry to leaves, unlike, say, feathers or feather plumes, traditional Amish feather plumes. So this sort of thing is super forgiving. So look at your borders a little bit differently and consider how you might take a 4-inch border or a 2-inch border and drop leaves in it, and it travels really well and it quilts up great. I put 2 veins in here. You could even put double the veins, so 2 instead of 1, and that would give you a beautiful look as well. In fact, let's do it. So, you know, when I did just 1, let's see what happens when I do 2. I would have done this at the same time as everything else. So I wouldn't go back and add this, but I just want you to see if you were to do 2 veins, how it would look. So I kind of like that better than a single. It just depends on how much time and how dense you want the quilting. And I'm going to cut this other one, Kelsey, and then we'll show both. So there you go. What do you think? Put it in their chat. 1 vein or 2 veins? 1 or 2? 3 might be too much. Kind of depends on the grid size. Okay, so I have another one to show you. And this one stacks in an interesting way, and it grows in an interesting way. So I'm actually going to start, let me go down a little bit. All right, so I'm going to start, and again, it works in groups of 2s. It doesn't work in groups of 4s, it works in groups of 2s. So I'm just going to start, I'll start here. So I'm going to start at the intersection between 2, and I'm going to do a little loop to the corner. So a little loop to the corner, and then I want to put, I kind of think of it as a letter V or a seagull. Who is that PBS artist with the big, Bob Ross? Yes, Bob Ross. Okay, so he would put happy little trees, and he would also put little seagulls, you know, flying across the canvas like that. So I'm going to put my little happy seagull up to that corner. And now I'm going to drop back down to where I started, and then I'm going to swoop up to the next intersection, and that's it. Okay, so loop, happy seagull, and up, and loop, happy seagull, and up. And this will build. So let me show you, because I've just done 1/2 of the flower, and now I'm going to do the other half of the flower. So I came back down. Now I need to do the opposite on this side. So I'm going to swoop up to this corner. My happy seagull is going to go this way, and then I'm going to loop down to where I started. Happy seagull, letter V, whatever works for you. The happy seagull makes me giggle, so I always pick something that makes me giggle. But you need to have something in your brain, because if you don't, I'm telling you, you are going to get lost. So letter V, happy seagull, something. Now, I would travel in the ditch, travel, 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 and then I would start again and build this out and do one side at a time. I'm going to go a little faster here. It's going to get a little messy, but I just want you to see what this looks like when it's built out. Now I would mark this grid, right? I wouldn't stitch this grid. I would stitch on the outside of the grid, but I wouldn't stitch the actual grid. And so if I mark it, like with a blue water-soluble pen, or a purple air erase marker, something to erase it. And then I would just keep on, right? Then I would travel, 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 and then do the loop, seagull, loops and seagulls and build myself out. Okay, so let's take that to the machine. And I'm going to put it over here in this grid. And I'm going to drop my needle to that midpoint. And I do have the outside of the grid stitched. And I have the interior of the grid with a blue water-soluble marker. So here we go. We're going to do that loop. And our seagull. Come down and up. Loop. Letter V or seagull, whichever one, and up. Loop. And literally, that is going on in my head, or I'm going to get lost and have a little squirrel moment. Now, okay, now I've gone to the opposite side, so I come down to the center. My little seagull, he's flying in the opposite direction. Ooh, and I was talking to you, and I got lost. All right, I'm going to travel over. Let's do it again. Loop. Because one of the cool things when you build this out is how the two sides kind of reflect and build this kind of secondary pattern. All right, here we go. Opposite side. All right, there we are. So that was a 2-inch grid. And again, you could do that in a border. It would be beautiful as a border. Your path would change just a skosh if you wanted to do them just like one all the way across. But isn't that beautiful? Let's look at, Kelsey, I think we have time. I just want to show them how, if we were to do this as a border, how that path would change. Okay, so I'm going to do it over here. If we were to do this as a border, so not stack them, your path would change slightly. And here's how your path would change. So I'm going to start the same way. I'm going to go up. Now I'm just going to do, if I'm going to do it as a border, I'm probably only going to do one. I'm not going to stack them. I'm just going to do one row. I'm going to come back down, head out, seagull. Now here's where it changes. Because if I did that loop back, then I would have to travel in the ditch to get to the next one. So I'm going to leave him empty for right now. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do my little seagull. I'm going to come up and do my little seagull. And now here is where I sneak back with my loop. And that's how the path would change slightly if you wanted to drop that into a border. So there it is as a border. And then here it is stacked. All right, so hopefully you see how easy that was and how quick that is. And we did it as a 2-inch grid, so try it in a 1-inch grid, try it in a 3-inch grid. This would be fine in any size grid, really. It would be a lot of fun, and it goes pretty easy and pretty quick, too. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that. I had fun with it. I do want to thank our sponsor, APQS. APQS makes wonderful long arm machines. They're 100% handcrafted in Iowa. They're loved the world over, and they do come with a lifetime warranty. So quilt forever. And we just got notified that we do have a batch of used machines available, some as low as $7,000. So if you're interested in our used APQS machines, you can go to quiltedjoy.com and you can look under the machine area, and we've got our used machines listed there. If you're interested though, do give us a call pretty quickly because they're going to go fast. And if you'd like to know more about APQS machines, you can visit your local dealer, your local APQS store, or go to apqs.com for more information. All right, I have a great looky-loo tour for you. You're going to love this. Gail Murray let me be nosy and invited me into her studio and take a look at how she has her little world all laid out. Hi, Gail. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Angela. It's lovely to be here.
I am already distracted by what's going on in your room. It is absolutely beautiful behind you. So tell me where you are.
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Fabulous. And you're in a home studio. You're in a more of a retail kind of studio.
No, this is my home, and this is the basement. The entire.
Perfect. You have the whole basement.
Well, it's not very big, but yes.
Wonderful. Well, can you turn the camera around and give us a little tour of your space?
Yeah. I'll start over here. There's my batting.
Oh, wonderful. So you've got what, two shelving units with a pole mounted between them?
Right, those are just closet shelving units.
Oh, so like a tension rod.
Uh, no, it's an actual clothing rod, but it's extra long.
Wonderful. What a great idea. I haven't seen that. That's fabulous.
Yeah.
All right, and then you've got your rulers on the wall, I saw.
Yes,
Yes. Okay.
got a couple of those.
Yeah.
Bookshelf in the corner, my books and
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. And you've got
Embroidery.
a 10 needle.
Yeah. All my
Mm-hmm.
quilts waiting to be quilted.
Oh, what, so you hang them there. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay.
My sewing area.
Oh, very nice. So you're in the same room then with your long arm machine.
Yes, yes, everything's in one room. I have about 380 square feet.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I love all your shelving units. Is that IKEA, I'm guessing?
Yes.
Yep, yep.
There's
And
my
a pressing space.
yeah, and that's an IKEA table that has a crank to make it go higher and lower.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I've seen those.
And this is a really cool shelving unit. It's made for elementary school classrooms. Um, Kids can
Yeah,
put their things in the cubbies.
right. And now you've got your own little cubbies.
Yeah.
So you keep your fat quarters in there?
Yes. Yeah,
Uh-huh. Perfect. I can see you enjoy organization.
I do. And
Yeah.
then up there, I have baskets with pre-cut.
Oh
Uh,
my goodness. Wait, Gail. We have a ceiling of fabric. What? You keep your pre-cuts. How do you get them? You're just very tall.
oh, I
6-inch
have a
squares.
letter. So I cut them into usable shapes if they're too small to go in the bins.
Wow.
And
That's
there's
fantastic.
my long arm, my wall
Okay.
of thread behind it.
So beautiful. Love it. I love how you've organized by the rainbow there. And is your machine, is it a 12-foot? Is it a 10-foot
12.
table? A 12-foot table.
Uh-huh.
Great. And it's a Millennium?
Yes.
A Millennium with a computer system with a quilt path?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, and you got to show me what's on your frame because I'm already curious. What are you working on?
This is the Judy Niemeyer. Can't see a whole lot of it. I'll show you a picture.
Okay,
This is the quilt. It's called Irish Thistle.
just gorgeous. So what do you use this working space here for?
Paper crafts. Got my Go Cutter. Got my Cricut.
Oh my gosh, I'm ready to move in.
Software on my computer. Coffee area.
You have no reason to leave the basement. Look at
No,
you.
behind these louvered doors is the furnace and that kind
Uh-huh.
of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is my greatest achievement. I have 3 IKEA bookshelves
Yeah.
that I put wheels on.
You did not.
I
And you
did.
pull them out? Oh my goodness. So okay. Show me the wheels if you would. Yeah, show me the wheels. So you just took and you put them on casters. Okay.
Yep.
It's kind of like a medical office. Like I've seen where they pull out the medical records.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly like that.
And so have you wrapped your yardage on a core
Yes.
of some sort? Oh,
They're all on comic book boards.
and then you just pull them in and out. Oh my gosh. Gail, are you a smarty pants? Did you figure that out?
I did.
Wow. That's amazing. I've never seen that. Okay, now I'm distracted by your stairs. Show me your stairs. Love that.
I just
What do you
got some peel and stick wallpaper to put on the riser so it looked quilty.
Oh my goodness, now I have to do that. Oh, that is absolutely gorgeous. Love it. And then you had a design wall, so I'd like to see that. It's not like on foam core or anything, is it? It's just fabric.
Yes, it's hanging from a bar up at the ceiling. I have
Uh-huh.
another one that's freestanding, but it takes up room, so I put it up when I need it.
And so you've got, I see a koala. You have a little one as well with,
This was just some pieces of foam left over from an appliance, and I covered them with fabric and use them like that. So that,
wow. And is it, so I see it's gridded. So that's a fabric that you purchased that had a grid to it.
yeah, that's the Fonz and Porter.
Yeah, love it. And I love that circular quilt that you got hanging on the wall. Is that a pattern that
That's
you know off
Color
the
My
top?
World by Wendy Williams.
That is absolutely glorious. So you've got it finished. You're going to get ready to quilt it.
Oh, no, there's a whole other row of buildings to go on yet.
Oh, really? That go around that black road again?
Yes, it'll be high rises.
Oh my goodness. Is it all paper pieced?
Yes.
That is beautiful. Okay, so what was on the other side of the stairs?
On the
And
other
you've got
side.
all of the, yeah, on the other side of the stairs. Have we already seen that part? Oh, yeah, we're back to your, yeah, your sewing area. Oh my goodness. And you've got cushy mats on your
Yes.
whole floor.
Play mats on the floor because it's the basement, so it's cement.
Yes, and that's your playroom.
Yeah. that's
There
my
you
play-
go. Is that a cutting table that we're looking at?
Yes, that's a
Oh, white.
koala kangaroo cabinets cutting table.
And so it's got all kinds of storage on it as well.
Yeah.
And then did it come with that magnetic bar that you've got your scissors and
No.
rotary? No.
That's from IKEA. It's a knife bar.
And you've just mounted it to the cabinet. So you have your scissors handy at all times.
Right.
Oh my goodness, I am so impressed, Gail. Okay, tell me one more thing. Below your quilts that you have hanging, it looks like a kiddo, like I had that in the toy room for the children.
Oh, yes. That's exactly what it is. It's for toys.
Your toys. And what's in there?
Oh, just odds and ends, things I'm working on,
fabric.
plan to work on.
Oh my goodness. Okay, show me the ceiling again because I can't get over your ceiling. That's amazing. Oh my goodness, Gail, you have such a great space. Well, can you turn the camera around so we can see your smiling face?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Gail, so what 3 things would you recommend to your bestie right now that you think are super cool? They don't have to be quilt related.
Invest in a label maker and label everything. I love to be organized and it helps me keep on top of everything. Browse Quilt Studios online. You'll get great ideas for layouts and storage ideas. And do what you love. And if you can't, then find something to love in what you do.
Oh, that's fabulous. Yeah, I'm a huge label maker lover as well, Gail. Your space is phenomenal. You have a beautiful playroom, a quilty playroom, and I really appreciate the time you've taken to give us
Thank
a tour.
you. My pleasure.
All right, we'll see you in the clubhouse.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Can you believe that studio? Are you ready to be adopted too? Because I want to move in with Gail. I want to play in Gail's sandbox because how cool is that? Like, I don't even know what my very favorite thing is. There are so many favorite things to love. Gail, you could have a whole career in designing other people's creative spaces because what you've done with your own is fantastic. I've been super excited to share that with you. And do show Gail some love in the comments and head over to the Quilted Joy Clubhouse and thank her for letting us kind of be nosy and take a look at her studio. Don't you love it? Love it. Thanks, Gail. I would love to ask you if you have enjoyed the Quilted Joy Clubhouse to leave us a review over on Google. The Google machine decides to serve us up based on how much love we get in our reviews. So it always helps our little business to grow if you leave us a review over there. And of course, the absolute best compliment that you could give us would be to share this with a friend. So if you send a link to the Clubhouse to one of your friends that you think would enjoy it, that would be the best compliment of all. But head over to Google and leave us a review when you get a moment. I would appreciate it. All right, so each month we do a, oh, did I do it wrong? Oh, yeah, oh, thank you. Kelsey was telling me to show you some of our new fabrics that just came in. And these are from, Kelsey, am I doing it right? Yeah. Okay, these are from, they're Tula Pink wide backs. And they're in these lovely, yummy colors. And they have these little circly rainbow, half eyeball looking kind of things. Aren't those fun? So there's pink and there's yellow and there's blue. And I think Kelsey has a better photo than my little camera that she can show you too. Yeah, okay, fabulous. So those are now over in the Quilted Joy shop on our website. And we also have 3-yard pre-cut backpacks that are 108 by 108. They're the perfect size for a backing for a quilt. So if you're not quite sure what you would need for a future quilt, if you grab a backpack, you'll know you have the right amount of fabric for it when that time comes. So those are our new Tula Pink wide backs that just came in. Okay, so each month we put out a call in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse for people to submit unquilted quilt tops, photos of unquilted quilt tops. And then I select one and show you how I would quilt it if it were my quilt here in the clubhouse. So here's the one that I picked this time. Now this is from Cheryl. And don't you absolutely love this quilt? Love it, Cheryl, love it, love it, love it. And I love that it's all scrappy and it's just got so much glow and so much going on with it. Beautiful quilt. Let's talk about the challenges of a quilt that has so much going on, so many different colors from all the different fabrics and patterns, but especially, and I'm going to zoom in here so that you can see it a little bit better. Let's see, that way. So do you see that main neutral, the main background fabric is a busy dot? Love it, love it, love it, love it. So effective in this quilt. But the challenge is when you go to quilt this quilt, what you do in those spaces isn't really going to show up all that much. And as your thread crosses over all those different lovely fabrics, all those scrappy fabrics that she's got going on, it also is going to get a little lost. So when you have a quilt that's like this, really the best thing to put on it would be something that's kind of repetitive, some kind of motif that kind of builds and adds texture, something that the eye can see the progression of it, but it doesn't have a lot of variation. So can you tell I'm talking about grids? All right, so let's do a grid design because I do want to show you how you can do a grid design on a quilt like this that will build and be easy and is an all over edge to edge. We've talked about grid designs on a border, we've talked about them as a background filler, and so now we're going to talk about them as an all over edge to edge. And what I want to do is I want to do that very last grid that we just talked about where we were doing our Bob Ross little seagulls, but we're just going to make them a whole lot bigger. And so I'm going to start here at this intersection and I'm just going to do my little loop into this corner, my seagull, and I'm going to come down. And by the way, somebody said this looks like a gnome. Here, let me turn let me turn down. I just turned down the color on Cheryl's quilt so you can see a little bit better. It took me a second, but I totally see the gnome now. There's his little nose, right? And there's the hat. It took me a second, but I totally see it now. Okay, so now I'm going to go up to that intersection, a loop, and my seagull, and come down and up, and a loop. So I don't have to mark this, right, because it's being done by the piecing. Now, you're going to have to decide how to build this out based on, if you have a long arm machine, based on how you have it loaded. Right? Because it's going to change based on how you have your quilt loaded. So you might do one row and come back and do the second. It depends on how big of the throat is that you have on your machine. But let's come back down and let's just do this on the other side. Of course, I would go all the way up, but you get the idea since we just built this out earlier during our time together. I think you get the clue, you get the hint. So I'm just going to do a few of them. Ooh, and here I was talking to you. I did my loop instead of coming out from my seagull. Out to that corner, seagull, and then I would sneak outside the quilt's edge till I got to that intersection, and then build it up again. And in this way, now all I see are gnomes. And in this way, I can do an all over edge to edge with a grid design. How cool is that? All right, and up, and then I would come back and do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to go a little faster here, pick up a little bit of speed. It's going to get a little messier, but I just want to show you. And keep on keeping on all the way up over this whole quilt. It's hard for me to really know how big these blocks are based on the photo, but if you felt like that perhaps you needed more quilting in here, just notice you do have negative space here. You could also, when you come back down, you could do a little echo inside, right? I'm just making that up as we go. and head up. So you could choose to fill these out. When you hit this intersection, you could even do like a little loop that way and then come back. There's lots of ways to fill in this space. If you feel like, Cheryl, that this is not enough quilting for the block size that you have, look at the negative space you have and do an echo or do some kind of repetitive motif, repetitive movement there, and that will fill that space in. All right, so let's take a look at how this looks all together. So I'm going to turn that one off, and I still have the color dial down just so that you can see it a little bit better. And I'm going to zoom out some and move over some, and zoom out again. So there you go, Cheryl. Cheryl, you quilt your quilt however you want to quilt your quilt. But I would love to see it when you get done. That's how I would quilt it if it were my quilt. Again, I dialed down the color. Let me take that off so you can see. It's a little hard to see what I did there. But again, their quilting is not going to be the star on this quilt. It's your piecing. And I absolutely love it, Cheryl. Just beautiful. So good job. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I would love to see how you finish it out. So were there any questions that came in the chat? No questions? All right, I did hear that people like the 2 veins over the 1 vein, and I think I do too. I think I do. It gives it more of a floral kind of look to it. Okay, so in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, we do have folks who post their quilts when they're finished with them so that we can all applaud and cheer and see what they're working on. And so we've got a few here to show you today. Barbara, I loved this. So Barbara did this for a customer, and I want you to notice a couple of things about it. Look at how the curvy lines that she put in her waves there really give movement, but then also look at the dimensionality. She added in all those adorable little baby turtles. So Barbara said that her customer was concerned that the turtles looked a little flat. So she used a trapunto technique. She put little pieces of wool batting behind those little turtle shells, and they really popped and gave great dimensionality over the quilt, and then just use kind of a hexagon shape to give the turtle shell some love there. And then notice that she did like a water filler in the blue fabrics. Barbara, I am in love with this. You did a great job. All right, Diana posted this one. Look at all of that feather work that she did on there. Diana, oh my word, so beautiful. And Diana, take a look at, if you go to the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, she's got some close-ups there so you can see a little bit better. But she did this kind of dense piano keys beadboard in that outer border that dances around her feathers and around that kind of swag border that she put on that outside border. Absolutely gorgeous, Diana. You did a fabulous job. Thank you for sharing it. And this one was posted by Nancy, and Nancy said that she did an edge-to-edge pattern, and she loves this pattern. So the pattern that she chose, that she put on this quilt, was it's called Holiday Garland, and it's by Patricia Ritter, who is one of my favorite designers. She does some really beautiful stuff. And then Nancy used white glide thread, and she said she used it on her 2019 Millie, and she really loves the sheen of the glide. And of course, it just kind of sparkles on that Christmas quilt. Wonderful job, Nancy. And so Carol said that this one, she put random patterns on it. She just had fun. Take a look at those circles that she put in that outside border. She said that all the borders are different. The back is just a back, and she says she's using her stash and she's just having fun. Carol, I can tell that you are just having fun. That's wonderful. And Lisa, she posted photos of this as she worked. So Lisa really, this can be intimidating. Take a look at that watercolor panel that she did. And so it can be intimidating to figure out what in the world to quilt on there. And take a look. Lisa put those trees and kind of gave more life to that watercolor design on that fabric panel, and I am sure learned a lot about the movement of her machine as she traced those shapes. Really lovely. And then she also posted another panel, that snowman panel, and then I don't know that the letters are a panel. I'm betting those letters are applique, because I don't know that I've seen that panel, but boy, that's a lot of applique, so maybe it is. Lisa, you'll have to put in the Quilted Joy Clubhouse if that's a panel or an applique. The little barn with the W and the pumpkins, really adorable. Lisa, thanks for posting that. And Virginia, you have been busy. So Virginia has done these 7 quilts for refugees there in her town, there in St. Louis. And she said that when she gave these to the recipients, that the smiles on their faces brought tears to her eyes again and again. And she had help. She said that Lisa P., Lisa C., Naomi R., and Jennifer W. helped her by making the quilt tops, and then she stitched them. Virginia, just lovely. You have been a very, very busy person. So thank you so much for sharing all of that. Okay, so let's talk about next year. It's already time for 2022. So what is 2022 going to bring for us? We are going to dive into rulers. We're going to talk about how you can use rulers on both a sit-down machine and a stand-up machine in simple ways to break spaces up, to give yourself some beautiful designs based on different kinds of rulers. So in January, we're going to start off by talking about ruler safety and what you need to have in place so that you can safely use a ruler with your machine, and what kinds of rulers to look for, how you can tell a good quality ruler versus a ruler that won't last you quite as long. So 2022, the year of the ruler. All right, you guys, that will be on Wednesday, January the 5th at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And do join us over on our social media pages. We are on Facebook, of course. You can find our Facebook page for Quilted Joy, as well as the Quilted Joy Clubhouse, which is our Facebook group. And we're doing some fun things over on Instagram, so make sure you check it out on Instagram. We've got some fun little day in the life photos over there. And then, of course, we've got lots of stuff for you on YouTube, lots of tutorials, lots of fun. So do join us on social and say hello. And thank you so much for joining us today. And I'll see you in January. Merry Christmas.